Okay, we have studied this case several times this year, and remember the first time when you had to ask for the name of a student and just type in three test scores that were held in integer variables? Well, that was very simple, and we did create a student class in order to explain how objects work. Now, the case study from chapter 10 talks about the student test scores, and it expands it to class relationships. So basically, this case study um, has, an, has some other components. The user interface for this program should allow the user to enter information for a new student, edit that existing information, and navigate through the database of students to access each student information. Just with those requirements, we know that we need to use either arrays or array lists in order to save all the students into an array of students and to save the scores also into an array because we would like the scores to be different. Like we can have 5, 10, 15 scores for one student, so the program should be able to resize the array if we're using arrays. Okay? So basically we're gonna need a display to help us do this in our program. Okay? Basically the relationships among these classes are going to be the following. So we're gonna have four classes, one called test scores app, test scores view, test scores model, and our class that we have used for several times is the student class. Now this relationship is based on the UML diagram that actually depicts these relationships. UML stands for Unified Modeling Language, and it's a graphical notation developed by software professionals to design and document object-oriented systems. Now, as you can see, the names of each class appears in dash, appears in a box. Okay? Now, in these boxes, we're going to have different relationships. A dashed line ending in a solid row means that these classes are related in somehow, that they use methods or they use objects from these two classes. Those relationships are very simple and do not need to have a hierarchy prerequisite. Okay? Now, if we have the line that you see over here, a line ending in a diamond indicates that the class nearest the diamond contains and is in part composed of the class at the other end. So basically what that means is that these two are related, but this class, test scores view, uses uses the objects from test scores model. It is a required condition that it uses these objects in its classes. It can be a portion or a complete class. The same happens with this one over here. Test scores model will use in its code objects from the student class. That's why the diamond is near the test scores model. Okay? So that is basically what the UML diagram shows. There are also numbers that can be found close to each box. These numbers next to each condition indicate the amount of instance of that object. In this case, the scores view class will use one instance of a test scores model object. Here, the student will need, the test scores model will use 10 different students for the test scores model. So basically these numbers will indicate how much times is the instance of that object created. So basically, if we go to our code, we are going to have four classes: the student, the test scores view, and the test score app. Now the test score app, if we see here, it's a very simple code that just runs, creates a model, okay, creates a testing model, and when he instantiates that model, he does it with the parameter of the constructor method. Okay, so when he instantiates test scores view, he needs a model. So this is the test score app will just instantiate a model and will, of course, start the test scores view with that model. So that's why there's just a relationship. Okay? The test scores model is the most complex class of all because this class will hold all the methods where you can add, replace, go to the first part of the array or the list, go to the previous, go to the next student, go to the last position of the array or the array list. Look at the size of that list, look at the current position, get the class average, get the high score, and of course, display current student, okay? And display all the information inside a student. So basically for this program, we need all these methods, okay? We're gonna be able to add, replace, and do all of them. Now the test scores model has a constructor method. When you create a model, what you do is that you create an array of students, okay? An array of students. We also create a variable called index selected student, okay? Because that index selected student is going to be the position of the current student that can be displayed, okay? He's always going to be in one position of the array or the array list, okay? We can either go to previous. Using the methods, we can navigate through that array. So the default constructor method for a test score model will say that the index selected student is -1, the student count start in 0, and we create an array list of 10 students. You can create an array. You can create an array list, and that array list does not need to have a size. It can change. So you can, instead of creating an array that is finite, you can create a resizable array list in this case. Now this would be the default constructor. Then we see all the methods. If we want to add a student, if we would like to add a student, we would have to apply the method to the object. So in add, these are the conditions. In order to add a student, I need a parameter, a student. Okay? So the parameter has to be a student. So the condition is, if the student count is equals the student's dot length, I mean the array size, if it's, then we have our list or our array full. This will not work if we're using array list. We would just have to add another one. Okay? So the condition is, for this case study, is that there are only 10 students. Otherwise, if there's space in the array, then students in the position student count, then add s. And basically, this is just adding a new student to the array. So that is pretty simple. Okay? Of course, after you have added, you need to update the student count and return null. Okay? The replace method, okay, the replace method would be, also has an exception in case that the array has no students. If there are no students in the array, then it must add a student first. Okay? But if this happens, then the student in that position will change. Okay? So it's very simple how this navigational chart works. Then we have go to first. So in this case, it will go to position 0. It will automatically go to the position 0. And the index selected student will be at that position. Okay? When it returns S, it just returns the student from the first position in the array. Previous, it would just go to index selected student -1 because we'll go one position. Okay? And so on and so on. But since we have the case study and we have that code, it is very easy for us to understand what it does on each method. So it goes to next, last, and so on. Current student, okay, it will just return the student on that position, on the current position of the array. In the size, we'll just have to return the student count, and that's why it's important to always update that student count every time that we add a student into our array. Okay? We have the current position, the average. So the average would be just the sum divided by the number of students that are in the array. We have the get high score, and this can be done with a for loop to see which is the highest score of all the students in the array. Okay? And we can do it, of course, with each of the students in each position. And we have the toString that in case that we want to print a model from test scores model, then it would use this in order to print the students from all the models, okay? The 10 students or the students that are registered. So this would be the model, the test scores model, that has the methods and the behavior. The test scores view is just the way that the client is going to visualize the program. So in this case, we create a test scores model. In test scores view, we create a test scores model because we're going to use this model. Now the constructor method for a test scores view is that it needs a test scores model. That's why in test scores app, we set a parameter of a model in order to go to test scores view. So basically, this is how the program works. It runs the test score app, okay? When the test score app runs, it creates a test scores view, and the parameter is the model over here. It goes to test scores view, okay? Then in test scores view, it constructs the object with this model, and it goes to a method called run. Now the method run will show the number of students, okay? It will show the index of current students, just like initializing the program, okay? And the current position of model. Then it goes to display the menu. This is one of the exercises that we're going to do. And display the menu is just showing all the options that the user has, like display the current student, display the class average, display the students with the highest grade, display all of the students, etc. Okay? Or edit the current student. So that menu has to be here on this method. Okay? So let me show you the display menu. So it's just a system.out.print line with all the options. Okay? This method, of course, does not return anything and actually doesn't capture the option type. So after display menu, okay, he will use a get command method. Now the get command is just to obtain that command, and we are going to look over here, that command. Okay, so we will get that command. We will create a couple of variables. Okay, and what we're doing is that with each command, we're going to return that number. Okay, so if he enters a 1, then return the 1, and whatever it does. Okay, whatever it needs. So the get command needs 3 parameters. It needs a string prompt, like this is the string that says enter a number from 1 to 11, the lowest and the highest. Okay, and we activate these parameters because we need an exception. If the condition is lower than 1, then it should like prompt again, and if it's higher than 1, then it's out of the range. So it would be nice if we can get it back and just make the client choose from 1 to 11. And this is what it does. While the number is true, okay, while that answer is valid, then scan a reader and get that number, and of course return the number to save. Okay. After we get the command, we ask if the command is 11. Of course, 11 would be quit the program. If the command is 11, then break out of that while loop and then just finish the program. If not, then run command. Now this method over here called run command is where he is going to create the conditionals if it's 1, if it's 2, if it's 3, if it's 4. And basically what it does is that if it's 1, 2, 3, or 4, he's going to use the methods from the test scores model. Okay? So let's look at the run command. And run command has, if it's 1, then system.out.println model.current student. That's why we created this method on the test scores model. Now this is the object model, and we just apply the method from that class. So it's very simple when you do it this way. You don't care what's on this method as long as you show the current student. Exactly like 2, 3, get high score, show all of them. This will show or display all the students that were added to that model. So we have 5. In 5, when we want to edit the student, we would like to, and this would be, I think it would be a good exercise if it's not there. It would be a good exercise to do. Edit the student and add a new student will be very simple. Adding a new student, you would need a name and then a number of tests, and you would be able to add those tests into an array. So this part over here, like the test scores view, this part over here would be nice to create like the arrays of scores, of test scores, and it can all be done here. Okay? And of course, we need press enter to return, and we hold it in a variable, the scanner variable, okay? And we just wait for the next line. So this would be the test scores view, basically. Now our student class is just the same class that we're doing. It has a name and it has 3 test scores, but the test scores, remember, that are not going to be held in 3 integer variables or 3 primitive data types. They are going to be held in an array. So here we have the array, and when we create a student, we can create a student, the constructor method, with a name and of course a number of tests. Let's say I want to make a student with 5 tests and the other student has only 3 tests. We also use the same methods from the prior programs like set name, set score, get score, and get the average of that student. So we will be able to use these methods from other instances in the program. Okay, so basically this was the same. We can also change this student, instead of using arrays, into array list. But it's not that important because when you set the number of tests, you are creating a finite array. Okay, and you don't need to resize that array later. Okay, you can continue adding tests or adding students. So this would be a good way to help to understand how arrays and array lists work and the relationship between all the classes. Okay? So good luck. I hope the program works. There are a couple of exercises during the case study that you need to enter. One is completing the main menu for the test scores view. Okay, completing the main menu, and probably you would have to add or edit some of the methods in the test scores model. But I think that that would be very simple since you guys already master arrays and array lists and some other concepts. So let's look at the program, how it works, and how it would look like when we are finished. This would be the main menu. It automatically shows the number of students in my array, the index of students, -1, and it prompts the options. So I'm going to add a student first. Okay, so ask for the name. Then I would add the amount of tests, because with that number I'm going to set the size of the array. So let's say I'm going to create a 4 test, the amount of tests. The student will be stored of index 0. It gives me where is the position of that student. Please enter the next test score. So let's say 90. This is a very good student. 88. Please enter the next test score. There are 4 test scores. And it says enter to return to the main menu. And here I get the menu again. Okay. And I can choose to either display the student, move to the previous, go to the next, quit the program. If I display the current student, it's 1, I will have that Simon has 90, 90, 98, 98, and the average of that student. Okay. So this is a very simple program. It can be a little bit complex, but that's why we need to understand that UML diagram. It helps when there are various classes using objects and using relationships and hierarchy relationships also. Okay, so good luck. I hope that this tutorial was a lot of help.